Let's begin with that development this morning. A whole lot of things happening in the polity right now, but this that you just saw is definitely something that a number of people are very, very wary of exactly what's happening here. Almost like it just happened suddenly. Maybe, maybe not. Let's welcome Dr. Monday Ubani, who is Chairman Section of Public Interest and Development Spittle for the NBA. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
And there are those who are wondering, hey, this case has been a long time coming of sorts, or it just happened suddenly? Between 240 million and then 13 million, and so for perhaps some background might help.
I think this case started in 2019. And this is 2022. If you remember, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that was enacted in 2015 was to cure this issue of delay in administration of criminal justice. I did evaluation of that act recently in a paper I wrote, and I discovered that we have not moved away in that problem, issue of delay in administration. So 2019, 2022. And it sounded so sudden. People are not even aware of this case.
Exactly.
And then yesterday there was issue of conviction. It's not today's case. It's been there. But the point is that it ended yesterday with a conviction. They didn't find him guilty of fraud or corruption. But for the fact that he had at the time an amount of money in excess of 5 million, which the Money Laundering Act criminalizes. And of course, and I can assure you now that we have started to implement this law, many Nigerians will go to jail, because we are not supposed to be giving or carry an amount in excess of 5 million at a time.
Is it that the fellows who were involved in it didn't know about it, or it was just something they thought, okay, we have enough influence to swing it?
Yeah, but the point is that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. If the law is enacted, it's assumed that everyone should be aware of the provisions of the law. So at any time you are caught, you cannot put up a defense that I didn't know.
Just a moment, Bukola. I saw on the front pages of some of the papers that says after paying the fine of 13 million naira or so, he's avoided the sentence. What does that mean?
No, what happened is that the court convicted him of the 59-count charge. I think he was found guilty on 26 count charge. And then each carries a 2-year jail term. But the judge was magnanimous in giving an option of a fine of 500,000 per count. Now, if you multiply 500 by 26, it gives you 13 million. So he was asked to pay a fine of 500 per charge, and he paid the money and then walked away.
So that means that he's not.
He's not going to be taken to detention to correctional center, because the time the court even gave a timeline. That if before 4:30 he was not able to pay the fine, then he should be taken to correctional center. So it's a conviction that has an option of fine, and so he was asked to. So he's still an ex-convict, yes.
It's not the same as a soft landing. It's not the same as
no, it's not plea bargain. No, it's not plea bargain.
Okay.
It is pure. He was tried fully and convicted, and then given an option of fine. Option of fine is also penalty.
You said moments ago that he wasn't found guilty of money laundering, but of carrying
of fraud or corruption, but money laundering of carrying, giving an amount that was in excess of 5 million at a time for an individual. Individual should not at any point in time, have more than 5 million with him in possession, either in his house or anywhere.
In cash.
In cash.
So what does this mean, first of all, for the individual? Because whether we like it or not, the media is carrying it as Okupe being guilty of money laundering. And then what does it also mean for his party?
Now, what he needs to do, if he feels that he was wrongly convicted, is to go on appeal. He has an appellate option up to Supreme Court level on this matter. But if he wants to leave it that way, he carries the burden of bearing ex-convict, for the rest of his life.
But he's paid the fine already. Can he still appeal?
Yes, of course, he can appeal. He has a right of appeal.
And
yes.
if he appeals, he gets his 13 million naira back?
Of course, if the court sets aside the conviction, he gets his money back.
But
yes, that is
paying
true.
the fine, isn't it a form of acquiescence?
No.
Acceptance
it's
of
like
conviction.
it's like when you are convicted and ask you to go to prison, you don't have any option. you are asked to pay or you go to prison. So if he doesn't want to, he goes to the prison. So, but he has paid, pending the time of his appeal. If the appeal succeeds, he gets back his money.
Now, there's something you said earlier that with the enforcement of this Money Laundering Act now and the consequences of it, that many more people will go to jail.
I can assure you that if we begin to implement that law, many Nigerians will go to jail. Many Nigerians will, because we know people who carry 20 million, 30 million. Everyone in this country, I mean, we're not everyone. I mean, those in, especially in authority and all that, carry more than that.
Does it excuse?
We have had a situation where even individuals, transport money in bullion van. I mean, in this country, I'm not talking about the politician now. Individuals go to bank and carry money in bullion van.
No. Just cash. To be clear, just to be clear, by way of education.
Yes.
We know traders that do, transactions way above that cash limit at hand at any given point in time. Is it for withdrawal or for deposit of any cash above that regulation?
I think what that law was meant is to reduce the issue of carrying cash at any point in time. You can do a transaction worth over 20, 30 million, but let it pass through the banking sector.
I get that, yes. But the point that I'm making is, if people come with cash, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, and at the end of the day, at the end of your business day, it accumulates to more than 5 million for an individual, or more than 10 million for a corporate representative of an individual.
That's in your possession.
In your possession.
Yes.
Based on daily cash dealings. Does it criminalize the person? At
any point in time, 5 million is found with you as an individual in excess of 5 million. You are clearly liable under that law. So you should not at any time allow that kind of amount to be with you in cash. You should not.
You do know, though, that, I mean, just before we go to the
for the sake
issue,
of, yes.
You do know, though, that there are people who deal in cattle and such other things way up north and perhaps do not have access to that kind of money at any given point in time. So transferring might be an issue for them. So does that criminalize them as well?
See, Ayo, as I said earlier, we are coming up as a nation, and I know there are certain practices we should begin to probably imbibe. If you are dealing in such a business you've mentioned, and then you eventually at any point in time we have an amount that will be in excess, you must understand the provisions of this law and try as much as possible to do a strategy to avoid, being culpable. What do? You watch how much you have at any point in time that should not, and then probably have an arrangement with a bank, that should, carry this money so that at any time you are caught. Amount in excess of 5 million is not with you in possession. You must try, because that's why education is also key in terms of educating people about the provisions of this law. Try as much as possible in your business transaction to avoid accumulating cash in excess of 5 million as an individual. I'm not talking about corporate. I think corporate is 10 million at a time. So if you are doing business where cash are coming in such citizen, try probably to have an arrangement with a bank or your bankers, to evacuate the money, that it will not, put you into trouble. That's the essence. By the time we begin to imbibe this culture, then we'll avoid a situation where you find yourself in a situation like this of having 5 million in excess. Okay. It is good for us. It's good for the economy. Absolutely. Because we are really trying to avoid destroying this naira. It loses value the moment, you go to UK, it can't, it's 20 pounds at a time. You hardly see 100 pounds. But here, 1,000 is being, it's being rubbish, Also, that's why we are also in favor of what is going on now, that we now learn the habit of not carrying too much cash at a time. It will even reduce the level of, attack. If anyone attacks you, I don't have any money with me.
Okay. I'm tempted to explore that point, but you were yet to land on the significance for Mr. Okupe's party, Labour Party, particularly now that the presidential candidate is, sort of interpreting it as being targeted at him, this conviction.
I don't think that's any target against any person. It's issue of evidence. If there is sufficient evidence where somebody has trespasses the law, what happens? The court is right to do the right in based upon evidence presented. Now, for Labour Party, they have now to sit down and evaluate what has happened. Is this a political conviction or a real criminal trial in which that a conviction has emerged? Now, what is the moral, because he is not a public officer, if he's running for an office, of course he cannot, at this juncture because he is an ex-convict until that is set aside. Now, the political party has to sit down and say, do we allow a man with this baggage to represent us as our DG? It's for them to, to think about. Will it not create a situation where people will begin to look at Okupe as somebody that should not be in a position to market a political party that says, oh, we're coming to do this, we're going to fight corruption, we'll ensure that there's no criminality and all that. So if you have such, your think tank, they should sit down and analyze this situation. It can also boomerang in their favor. There are situations where people have won election even while in prison in Nigeria. I hope you're aware. Where people say, oh, it is a political conviction, but it will really enhance even support, for that individual. Oh, we are not going to allow this to happen. It's not going to dampen our decision. We still believe in him. He's a man of integrity and all that. So it's for the political party to evaluate all that. Can we allow this man with this baggage to represent us as our DG? Or do we put him aside for the meantime until he set aside that particular conviction and get somebody else? They have the right to do all that at this juncture, but I won't be the one to advise them. But if they seek my advice, I will tell them at this point, you must avoid a situation where they will not use this against you.
What about the timing? Does the timing for you carry any political undertone?
The trial started in 2019. He wasn't charged this year. So it's an ongoing trial. So if you say the timing, take it back that he was charged in 2019. So how would you now relate it that, oh, they want to do this now because he is the DG? No, that is I won't give that interpretation. But the point is that the court has succeeded in finishing this. There are many still pending. I'm yet to hear about the case of the Accountant General that EFCC has even admitted that they have recovered 30 billion out of 100 and something billion allegedly taken by. And so these are cases that should be hastened up in accordance with the Administration of Criminal Justice Act and get conviction. I'm happy that we are getting conviction based upon the new system we are employing, but it should apply across board.
Well, I guess we'll wait because it definitely is an ongoing one. That the Accountant General case, the Accountant General's case that you mentioned, for instance, many people are interested.
Yes.
Well, we said that this kind of seemed like it happened suddenly, but you said it started in 2019. But there is another one that seemed to have started suddenly, and that's the one concerning a certain Godwin Emefiele, according to what we have, where the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja is said to have declined an application by the DSS to arrest and detain Godwin Emefiele. One of the things that we understand that the judge said was, look, there is no evidence that this is the same person as the CBN governor on the one hand, and hey, why arrest someone suddenly without, sufficient evidence? Perhaps some background as well?
Emefiele is presently the governor of Central Bank. And then there is allegation that are very grave. One is on economy. The other one is on terrorism. And you go to court in order to have him arrested and detained. And then in doing that, the court is called upon to exercise what we call discretionary power. For a court to exercise discretionary power, you must place what we call sufficient material before that court, which is what we've been saying all along in terms of ex parte applications that the security agencies use often to infringe on the right of citizens. He's not given an opportunity to come and represent himself to counter whatever allegation you have put up. This is one-sided allegation. And you are now asking the court to really act on that one-sided allegation. What are the sufficient materials presented before the court? I am very happy that the court, through this case, is establishing a proper jurisprudence, which is what we've been saying, that there should even be an enactment to guide the court in cases like this, where they are being asked upon to exercise their discretion to infringe on a guaranteed right. The man is not there. You are putting up this allegation, and you want the court to exercise that to detain him, even beyond the constitutionally guaranteed time, 24 hours. You're asking to be detained for 60 days or 45 days, like in the case of Showore, if you remember. and you are not presenting any sufficient evidence. And we have this character, oh, it's from the office of the president, it's from the office of DSS, it's from the office of EFCC, and so what? Are they not supposed to do the right thing in order to convince an arm of government that is different for it to exercise discretion? So I'm happy. What I want to say is that this is the way we ought to go, and let it be applied to everyone, both to a big man, both to the governor of Central Bank, and to that poor man in Bauchi or somebody in Ikuano in Abia State. Let it be applicable across board.
But there is an issue that you mentioned.
Yes.
In laying the foundation, you raise the issues that the DSS raised, which are that this matter concerns terrorism, and it also has implications on the economy.
Yes, sir.
How significant is that for you? And given that, on the one hand, I mean, the DSS, for instance, may not want to release certain information out. But of course, you know that the judge said, look, I should have been taken into confidence.
That is the truth. If you're alleging, you can't just make a blanket allegation and say, just mention the word terrorism. Somebody now begin to act because you have mentioned it. No. The court is being placed in a position to exercise discretion. Get me right.
Okay.
What are the materials before the court? What materials have you presented? Oh, because the word terrorism, then the judge becomes afraid. Oh, you have used the word terrorism. No. What are the facts that will make me now to abridge this man's right? That is the truth. If it's not there, it's not there. So the court should not go ahead and begin to, fear the word terrorism. As I said earlier, we fear certain words, oh, it's a terrorist act. What are the things that constitute terrorism in the act you are alleging? So that the court now be in a position to exercise discretion. You're asking the court to exercise discretion. What are the material facts? None. But I'm saying it shouldn't be applicable only to the big men. That is the situation. When we are fighting, any man can be a victim tomorrow. When we stay here and begin to talk about fundamental human rights, we are preaching it to everyone. That you are in a position of authority today. Tomorrow you become an ordinary citizen who can become also a victim of the system if you don't get it right. Let's begin to sanitize our system and let the right thing be done. Okay, you are going to arrest a CBN governor. He never even disclosed his identity to the court. That is even fraudulent in the first place. It was not mentioned that this is Central Bank governor. We are doing things wrongly. The way Onogen was removed, and we cannot continue as a nation in begin to do wrong things. Let's begin to do right things.
So
and I'm
based
happy
on that,
with the court's decision.
Back to political undertones. There are suggestions that the bid to arresting him may be political, given the impact that the redesign of the new Naira notes may have on the elections.
Get me right. I am not here to speak on behalf of any person. Emefiele is not I'm not his fan. I'm only saying that the right thing must always be done. We should not fetter the power of the security agencies to carry out investigation at any time. Because this matter touches both on the strategy of investigation. Jurisprudence of rights is very key. Most times, the security agencies rush to go and arrest somebody without any evidence. And I said it here several times. We see what happens in other nations. Before they rein you in, they would have done almost 80% of their investigation. So when they are bringing you in, it's for you to make a statement, and they now confront you with all those material evidence, whether you agree or, and then the next thing that they charge you to court. They won't detain you. They don't take interest. But here in Nigeria, the security agents, and we need to get them to clear the system out of this. They take so much interest in getting people in detention, and they're happy. They are 30 days, 40 days. No. That is not what the law says. The law says take him to court. Yes.
You haven't spoken to the question that she raised about the political undertone. What
I'm saying, I don't read any political undertone to this.
Okay.
I'm saying that they may have evidence against him. There is allegation of other trillion in stamp duty and all that has not been cleared. There is this issue that, there are certain things being done with our economy that also has not been cleared. But the court is saying, for you to now convince me to allow you to arrest this man and detain him, give me evidence. Okay. If you don't give me evidence, whether it is political or not, if it's political, the court is now saying, you cannot do that with me, which is what I love. The court says you cannot use me to achieve your political end. I am here as a court to look at the issue of law and how the law should be applicable to everyone equally. And that is what the court now says, I'm not going to allow you to use me as an instrument. If the courts begin to do that, we will have a country that all of us shall be proud of. Can I say this, Ayo, before you ask the next question? If we get our judiciary right in this country, our judicial system right, 80% of Nigerians' problem will be solved. If we get a judiciary that is working to enthrone justice, to do justice to all manner of men equally, without looking at any person's pocket or face, we will have a country all of us shall be proud of. And that's why we must look at that particular sector, that arm of government, judiciary. I'm interested in it. I'm a public interest lawyer. If we get judiciary working, 80% of Nigerians' problem will be solved.
This conversation is quite a number.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
But this issue is not really, this conversation is not really over, because what you began with, for instance, was that, look, cases shouldn't be delayed beyond a particular time.
I agree with you.
However, we seem to prioritize political cases a lot more, contrary to some other things that one would consider important. But that's another conversation we probably have to have some other time. With you, Dr. Monday Ubani, Chairman, Section of Public Interest and Development, SPIDO of the NBA. Thank you again.
Ayo, thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm in my traditional dress today because I have closed.
You have closed for the year, we know that.
Christmas is in the air, even in the weather.
We're back after now to take on another issue. Please stay with us.